Hey everybody, this is Dream, and today we're going to be checking out Major League Baseball for the first day of the season. So let's go ahead and get into the slate. This is gonna be a lot of fun this season, so hopefully we do well today. We do have a 8-game slate for the first main slate on DraftKings, which starts at 4 p.m. It is all the 4 p.m. games. Doesn't look like there's going to be too much weather issues here, which is nice. So that's a nice advantage today. We do have a fairly good set of games as well, with 3 games being having totals over 8.5 runs. That's the Washington Cincinnati game, St. Louis the Dodgers game, and then the New York and Houston game. Obviously, the game in Cincinnati is going to be a boost from that perspective, so do keep that in mind when we're going through this. So we're going to start out by looking at our pitchers here, and we'll just start here at the top with our favorite pitchers. Tyler Glasnow for the Dodgers is going to have a good matchup here in St. Louis. Now, he averaged around 21 fantasy points a game last season. He also went 10 and 8. He's going to have a really good opportunity here to have a big game, as he's got one of the best K rates on this particular slate, and that definitely gives him some upside. I suspect he'll get somewhere between 6 and 8 strikeouts in this one, and hopefully get deep in the game. So that has him in a good situation. Not only that, but the Dodgers are favored to win this game quite highly, and he's going to have the best opportunity on this slate in order to get a win. Obviously, he's the most expensive pitcher as well, but he's definitely worth the price on this one. A good contrarian option off of him is Skubal for Detroit. He gets a favorable matchup here against the Chicago White Sox, a team he dominated last season with 25 and 31 points respectively in the 2 games he's played against them. And he's a top tier option here. He's a great alternative to Glasnow. Maybe a little bit safer also due to the matchup and run total. He should be able to get through 6 innings here, and he's got the best chance of a quality start on the entire slate as well. Also a top tier K rate. I do expect him to get 6 to 7 strikeouts in this one, and he's just overall a really solid opportunity here. He's priced up obviously, but he's definitely worth it. He's got the best total earned run potential on this one as well, so that gives him a lot of upside. My next favorite option is going to be my best value play here, and that is going to be Jesus Luzardo. Uh, Now, Luzardo has been pretty good in the past against Pittsburgh, and he had his last season. He had 1 game against them where he scored 32 fantasy points. He's my favorite pitcher from value on the slate. He's top 3 in strikeouts for the slate, and he's got nice upside here, and he's the best option when it comes to a whole bunch of metrics for value plays. I do expect him to be one of the lowest earned run pitchers on the slate as well, as he is facing one of the weaker teams, and so I do like his potential here. He definitely carries that top tier P2 option for the slate. And then another good option as a P2 is Yu Darvish. Now he does have a good matchup against San Francisco, and that definitely gives him some upside here. He is a contrarian option though, so to keep that in mind. His K rate can be hit or miss, and he can have good games and bad games. Obviously, when he's on, he can be really good, but he's been up and down. And against San Francisco last season, he scored 18 and 12 fantasy points. Obviously, not super ideal, but he's a good contrarian option, and he's definitely worth a look here. But he definitely carries some risk on this particular slate. A couple other guys you could consider it would be Cole Reagans. I also thought that uh, Framer Valdez has some interesting potential here, and Zach Eflin, though he carries a lot of risk in that matchup. So, but those top 4 guys I think are my favorites, and so I'm just going to leave it from there. Moving into our catchers, this position doesn't really strike me as a super great one today, but nobody's super overpriced, with the exception of Will Smith. But obviously, Will Smith is going to be in play a lot this season. He's one of the better pitchers or catchers, excuse me, from a fantasy perspective. Now, he didn't do great against St. Louis last season, but he gets a favorable matchup here this to start the year, and he'll be a popular option through the season. Um, and today, for that matter. So he's got a lot of potential. He's a little bit risky to the price, but a Dodger stack with him in it is definitely a viable option on this particular slate. He's got home run potential as well. Looking at, let's see here, where is he? Diaz for Houston. He's just $3,000. Catcher, like I said, is weak today. He projects well and is one of the lower, and it's a little bit lower ownership than some of the others on this slate. He draws some upside as a good option for a GPP as well. He's just dirt cheap and has some potential. He has home run upside, and last season. He did pretty well against the Yankees as well, and this is going to be a good positive matchup for him. Next, we'll look at Jake Rogers. Uh, let's see, for Detroit. Now, Detroit is an interesting team to today, as they do have a favorable matchup here against the Chicago White Sox, uh, and the White Sox pitcher as well. Rogers is a guy, if you want to go for the guy with the best home run upside, then he's the one. He's kind of a home runner best option on the slate. He's got he got some potential here, though he definitely carries some risk, but he's dirt cheap, so that helps. Then we'll look at Nick uh, Fortes for Miami. Now, he is a guy that has some decent usage here, and so he should have some opportunity in GPPs, though, and he is dirt cheap in a good matchup. The upside here is rather limited. He doesn't have a whole lot of home run upside, but if you think he can score, 6 to 10 fantasy points, then he's definitely somebody to consider. Also consider Tyler Stevenson and Keibert Ruiz here at catcher. Maybe another first baseman. Obviously, Otani is going to be a top tier option for this slate. He's going to be a very popular play every day he comes up to bat, and with his home run upside and stackability with other Dodgers, the fact is you can have him and Freddie Freeman on a now with them being with Otani having the outfield opportunity. So that's a tremendous stackability there, and he's definitely somebody that I'm going to try to roster at least some, especially with his home run upside. Then we're going to look at Freddie Freeman, who obviously has a lot of upside as well. Obviously, super expensive, but he's $500 cheaper than Otani, so he's a good contrarian option, and if you and a good guy to put in for stacks with the Dodgers as well. He also just hits the ball very well, and that gives him a lot of potential for a fantasy positivity, especially in a good matchup here uh, as well. So that gives against St. Louis, who he in 7 games last season he averaged 14 fantasy points a game against. So I do like him quite a bit. But one of my favorite plays on this entire slate is going to be my next guy here, and that's Encarnacion Strand for the Reds. He's at $4,000. He uh, really came out and did very well last season, and he looks to expand on that here. He's nice priced. He's nicely priced here. He could also play third base, and he's going to be pretty chalky, I think, because of that. He would be tough to roster at first base by default, but I do think at third base, which is rather weak, he's going to have a lot of potential to be a very rosterable option today, especially with his home run upside and the matchup here, and as well as this being in a game that is at the Cincinnati Reds Park, so he's got more potential there as well. Then we'll look at Joey Gallo. Now, Gallo is a guy that can play first base or outfield. He is a complete home run or best play. He does have that home run potential in a juicy matchup, but he definitely strikes out a lot. So he's a guy that probably will strike out 2 or 3 times. But if he can get the home run, then that would be somebody to be useful in this particular matchup. You could also consider Luis Arias, Jose Abreu, and Rowdy Tellez. However, they all carry a little bit of risk on this particular slate. Looking at our second baseman, we're going to look at Jose Altuve first here. He's the top play for the second baseman. Going to be a decent play today. He is pricey, but he's in play with the most upside at the position. Good matchup against the Yankees. Weak pitching, and he did pretty well against the Yankees last season. Not world beater, but he definitely has some good upside here, and so I do like his potential. Jonathan India is a guy for Cincinnati I really like today. He's somebody I was really thought about making a core play as well. I'm going to set him there just because I'm going to, but I'll put Encarnacion in here as well at third base. But I think India is a guy that's going to have a lot of upside in this matchup and a lot of potential here. He's done well in the past at home, and I look for him to continue that here. He's not the biggest home run guy, but he's just fairly priced and has good usage and good hitting potential, so I think he's a very chalky play on the slate. Then we'll look at Garcia for Washington. Oh, where is he? Luis Garcia Jr., that is, at second base here. For Washington, at just $3,300, he's going to carry some interesting upside here. He played well in some limited time last season, and I look for him to expand on that. He also did well at Grapefruit League to start. Or sorry, that's not what I meant. Uh, he also is a guy that I think has some usage upside today because I do think he's going to be somewhat popular being in this game for with against Cincinnati. Now, as far as the limited upside he has, he will be at the back of the order likely, so that does hurt him a little bit. But he is a cheap option at this position, and second base is sometimes a tough position, especially with expensive guys like Altuve. But with India there, he's just a very good contrarian option. And if you want a home run or bust option at this particular position, then Brendan Lowe will be the guy at $4,000. He's going to have some potential in this one, but he definitely carries a home run or bust opportunity. Looking at the also considers here, Luis Reyes again, Lux for the and Mookie Betts both have some potential for the Dodgers. So, looking at our third baseman, um, oops, our third baseman, obviously Encarnacion Strand can be here. That definitely is something that I'm gonna try to roster a lot in this slate is him, and he definitely has that nice potential today. Though I'm gonna also look at Max Muncy. Max Muncy has some potential for the Dodger stack, though he's fairly expensive. His batting average has not been ideal over time, but he does have that home run upside, and if you can fit in a Dodger stack, he's somebody I would consider. He's just a contrarian option off of Encarnacion Strand. So, and then we're gonna look at a another value play here of Colt Keith for Detroit. Now he signed a deal in the offseason to be a starting second baseman. He's 3K and he hit 287 with 13 home runs in 67 games in AAA last season. I think he's going to have some opportunity to have some ownership today, and so he's definitely worth a value kind of Hail Mary type situation at this position. So obviously, we'll have to see if he can start off the season pretty well, but I do like his potential here as a good fantasy upside guy so that you can, get some other guys in. You can also consider Alex Bregman and Candelario at this position as well. Maybe in the shortstops is kind of where we get another guy that we really like a lot, and that is De La Cruz. He signed a deal in the offseason to be the starting second base. Sorry, reading the wrong thing. He leads all the categories for the slate at this position, and he's going to be chalky. It's hard to get hit home runs from shortstop a lot of times, but he gives you that upside, and he also gives you stolen base upside. And we know he can do lots of crazy things. He's priced up, obviously, but even last season in 7 games against Washington, he averaged 13 fantasy points a game with a 433 batting average. The pitching is not getting much better in Washington, and this game has a high total. I expect him to have some real opportunity to be a good play on the slate. Then we'll look at Abrams. Now, I really like Abrams a lot for Washington as well. So that does give you some contrarian option and a little bit cheaper, over $1,000 cheaper than De La Cruz. But he and the both of them are both going to be the only two guys at this position that will likely start in their team's top four on the order. So he's a really nice contrarian option here at this position. We could also look at Jose Pena for Houston. Now he carries some risk here, but he definitely has some upside as he does have a tendency to have some solid games occasionally. His price is cheap enough that he's definitely worth a look, and he does, he is an everyday option at this position. Then we'll look at Nick Med for San Francisco. He is what I would call a very contrarian Hail Mary punt play today. He's dirt cheap, but he has had some good potential in certain situations in the past, and he actually projects pretty well today for this particular matchup. I don't think he's going to be something I'm going to use a lot this season, if more than a couple times. But in certain situations, he definitely draws some utility, and this is one of those type of situations. Also consider Lux and Javier Baez at this position, so I do like those guys as well. Maybe in the outfielders, we obviously like Otani as well, but we also like Jake Fraley today as he's going to have some nice potential here. Now, he doesn't have the batting average some other guys do, but he's been good against Washington last season, and he's pretty good at home. The batting average doesn't change, but he does have more home run potential here, so that does give him some upside. He also has some stolen base upside, which is nice. Not a ton, but he does have a little bit, and so he's definitely worth a look on the slate, and he's nicely priced. I actually expected him to be more expensive. Then we'll look at Jazz Chisholm Jr. for Miami. Now, he does have that home run upside. He hasn't been particularly great at the batting average, but he's a little bit pricey, but he definitely projects well today, so he's definitely interesting. If you can get that Dodgers stack to work out, then Mookie Betts would be one guy to consider on that, as he's been really solid against St. Louis last season. He's also hitting the ball well, uh, and he should have home run potential as well. So he's definitely a great option on the slate. Another couple, I got three value plays here to consider. Benson for Cincinnati. Cincinnati should be a pretty popular stack, being that they're at home, and that gives him a lot of potential. He's actually not hit the ball well at home last season, but he definitely draws the home run upside. So, kind of a boomer bust play, but he is cheap and he should be popular on the slate. Eddie Rosario signed with the Washington Nationals, and he looks like he might be the everyday starter and outfielder in the outfield. And if that's the case, then he's going to be somebody that really has a good opportunity to have a solid game here at a dirt cheap price. He has some home run upside, and he's been last season with the Braves. He did pretty well. He also faced Cincinnati 6 times last year, averaging 9 fantasy points a game. And this game being at Cincinnati really does give him some potential here. And then James Outman for the Dodgers. He's a guy that's been very hit or miss so far in his career, but this is a good matchup for him, and he has some potential to have a solid outcome here. He also did well in the Cactus League, so I do like his upside. You can also consider Gallo, Robles, Martini, Gallo. Sorry, I already said Gallo. Sawinski, Carpenter, Holy, and then Steer, Sawinski, and Senzel at this position. So lots of options throughout this. Overall, my top overall plays are going to be Otani and De La Cruz. I think they have both the most of this the sheer upside of all the players on the slate, and so they're both in play. For the sub $5,000 plays, obviously Abrams, Fraley, and Encarnacion Strand are all in play, and the sub $4,000 plays Benson, Rosario, and well, Encarnacion Strand also as well. So that's what I have for the slate. My top home run plays on this one are Otani, Judge, Gallo, Torkelson, Edward, Encarnacion Strand, Muncy, and Alvarez, excuse me, for Houston, and then for stolen base potential, De La Cruz, Abrams, Witt, Fraley, Benson, and Tatis Jr. Excuse me. So that's what I have for the slate. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below, and have a nice day, guys.